What's up, everyone? So I've actually had quite a few questions on how I make Gil throughout the game, and rather than just making a macro on all of my different tips and just hitting everybody that asked me with it, I figured why not just make a YouTube video about it and hopefully sharing some of these tips on how I personally make Gil throughout the game. It should give you guys enough information to make it rain. Now, I know a lot of you are going to sit there and say, well, you forgot this or this option and stuff, which there are tons of ways to make money in Final Fantasy, and some obviously are better than others. But this is just something that I wanted to put together because it was how I personally made Gil throughout the game. And this list actually varies as far as difficulty or skill levels, meaning that it's probably very easy to accomplish one, if not multiple things on this list. Kicking it off, let's talk about the most basic, simple, a brain-dead way of making Gil, and that's going to be your retainers. There are a few things to note when we talk about your retainers. The first being that the job that you pick for them can only be as high as your highest job of that same job, right? Yeah. So for example, if you have only a level 80 warrior, nothing else is level, just an 80 warrior, you need to make that retainer a warrior as well, and it will be able to hit level 80. If you tend to make it something else that you don't have leveled, it'll just sit at level 1, meaning you're not really going to make anything from it. Now, what I have noticed personally is that the gathering ones tend to bring back a few more rare items more often, netting you a little bit more money than usual, but there is no harm in obviously just picking battle ones as well. The other thing that all retainers bring back are Algae pieces. Now, these Algae pieces, obviously, a lot of people just straight vendor them, and there is no harm in that. But I would recommend that you probably happen to just save maybe a stack of these. And the reason behind this is that if someone were to transfer off of your server, they can only bring so much Gil with them. Meaning a lot of people will just go to the market board and pay your little bit of markup on these just so they can move most of their money with them and revendor obviously all these items on their new server. So I tend to think that just retainers happen to just be a very easy way of doing day-to-day money moves. The second thing we're not really going to spend a lot of time on just because it's standard through most MMOs, and that's just gathering or farming. The biggest issue with this is it tends to vary depending on what part of the expansion or patch that you're currently in. If you can jump on things at the beginning of the game or at the beginning of a new patch where people are going to want to craft new items quick, then being able to gather those high quality items or be online for timed items, which are, as the name states, things that only spawn certain times throughout the day, meaning if you have a ton of time and you're home all day or whatever, setting a timer, being able to get on and just grabbing these items, whether you have good gear or not, can net you quite a bit of money. Up next on the chopping block is number 3. But let's go at a 5, 5.5, but a 5.5. I got 5.5, but a 6, but a 6 1/4, 6 1/4, 6 1/4, but a 6.5, 6.5 sold. That's obviously going to be your auction house or market board. You wouldn't believe how many takes this actually took to get right. But just in general, the auction house in this game is pretty cutthroat. The biggest thing that I've noticed a lot of people will do is within your data center, you're allowed to visit other realms. Now, part of this means that you can buy items off of their market board. So let's say a certain type of leather is selling really well on your server and you don't feel like going to farm it. You can just visit other servers, see if maybe they have it for sale at a little bit of a cheaper price, go back to your server and simply just repost it. Now, the biggest issue with this is you have to have almost a lot of time investment or be willing to spend a couple extra dollars on the companion app, where it allows you to, adjust prices while you're on the go, be that at work, which, not that I do that or anything, or, just out and about in general. I've definitely gotten undercut more than 10 times in one day on certain items, so it's pretty rough to say the least, but I haven't really ever lost money, maybe but 5% of the time, just because of how fast and rapidly things drop on patch days that I've done. So the market board is definitely something to consider, and if you've played that game on other MMOs where you just sit there and you're all about undercutting and being top dog in that regard, then by all means it's definitely lucrative here as well. maybe some of the things I've mentioned so far don't really appeal to you, and you just have that mindset of kill, I want to kill, make money, kill, kill. Well, then you need to probably do maps. So technically, maps are a gathered item once per day, but you can buy these off the market board. So if you choose to do that method, be sure to look over the course of a week on map pricing, as the weekdays and weekends tend to vary quite a bit in price. Essentially, what a map dungeon is more of a fun place that has not really hard mobs, but somewhat of a little minor challenge depending on how many people you bring with you. I've done these with as little as 3 people, and we decided just to split loot, but they give you a variety of things. I've gotten tombstones from these, small minor items that sell for just a little bit of money, as well as materia, crystals, and the 2 biggest things as far as gil from this are just straight gil. Every wave out of, there's a 5-wave cap, and every wave will net you some amount of gil. And if you make it to the very end, you're going to get like 50 or 100,000 just straight off the bat. The other thing are the items, which they happen to introduce new ones with upcoming patches. So maps are something to do throughout the course of an entire expansion that can net you quite a bit of money. In Shadowbringers, for example, we had a patch where Frontier Cloth was a new item that came out, and we just went in there on that patch day. It was selling for well over 1 million gil, and we farmed 6 or 8 of these and just split the money between us. So overall, it is a really good way, if that's all you want to do is just fight things for money, to be able to do it within Final Fantasy. The last thing on my list is probably the most difficult, but also has a huge variety of ways to make money, and that's crafting. Crafting can make money in various forms through selling glamour. I mean, obviously everyone's always changing their glamour, they're always buying Fantasias, they always need new stuff. So just selling glamour is really big. The next thing would be selling high-end gear. Every patch in Final Fantasy alternates between crafting gear, battle gear, crafting gear, battle gear. And if you're able to get your set first and start spamming out a ton of armor sets, there's a lot of people that would rather buy it than make their own. So being able to make high armor sets is huge. And if you tend to overmeld it ahead of time and put it on the market board for them, you can probably make a little bit more money on those as well. The next thing is going to be consumables. Now, this tends to work a little bit better if you're on a raiding server where foods and potions, sell more often because they are consumed more, but it's still lucrative no matter where you are. Another thing would be beast tribes. Now, beast tribes tend to give you currencies which you can trade for items to either sell on the market board or materia that you yourself can use, or also sell on the market board as well if your gear happens to be max overmelded. And if you're trying to avoid just the market board altogether, then just simply doing levy quests. I know at the end of Shadowbringers, people were making cookies and selling them to vendors, and honestly just making like millions a week. It's pretty ridiculous, but if you just feel like sitting next to a vendor crafting a ton of items and just turning them all in, it's definitely a great way to make money. These methods are by no means the best ways of making money, but I wanted to share with you my personal experiences, as well as give variety from novice point of views to the more advanced ways of making money in the game. As always, if you guys enjoy my content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Feel free to leave a comment down below on how you've made money in the game from your own personal experiences. And if you feel like just chatting with me live, don't be afraid to click on my Twitch link, which is somewhere around here. And until next time, guys, take care. See you later.